What is up, everybody? You're tuning into the Riddle Me That podcast with your host, Alex Riddle. Coming to you live on a Thursday night this week. Second official live episode of RMT. If you want to come check out RMT, YouTube, we have our channel available to everybody. I always post a link after the show. But if you just want to search RMT Productions on YouTube, our episodes will come out with our channel. Up to at least 30 viewers last episode, so let's see if we can beat 30 on episode 2 here. We got a lot to talk about today on the podcast. We have the Bears doing Bears things, firing their offensive coordinator after coming off maybe the worst loss I've seen in a while as a Bears fan. Shane Waldron out as the offensive coordinator. Passing guy for the Bears, I had to actually look him up because I didn't even know his name. Thomas Brown. So the passing game coordinator has been promoted to offensive coordinator. So big change at Chicago. We'll see if this can boost Caleb Williams and the Bears' morale. I don't know if it will, but lots to talk about in Chicago. We have the Bulls as well, probably coming off their biggest win of the season with a win in New York the other day, 124-123. Still sucks not being able to watch Chicago. If you have Xfinity, prayers up for any Bulls, Blackhawks fans. We still have not been able to stream the Bulls until Xfinity comes out with a deal with the new Bulls and Blackhawks network. But I'm able to watch the highlights. If you know what, Bulls continue to, ride that ship. They're a couple games below 500. They're keeping themselves watchable, as I'd like to say, in the sports world. So the Bulls coming off a big win. Can they keep that momentum going as the season progresses? A lot of NFL games this week. Big NFL Week 11 slate. 10-3 on the picks last week. Technically 11-3 if you count the Tyreek Hill touchdown score prediction on Monday night. But 11-3 on the podcast. If you took my picks, you had a very profitable week. I did throw together a $2 long shot parlay on every single pick, so I did not cash out on that. But it was cool to see that, okay, I know something about the NFL. It's one of those, once you get to the middle of the NFL season, it's sometimes you just have to create a narrative and go with it. And that's exactly what I'll be doing for this week's picks as well. So I did not come through on the actual bet of the week. Luckily, our podcast was aired after that, so hopefully nobody took that with the Kansas Jayhawks, Santa Clara, two-team steam. Kansas did come through, Santa Clara losing to Arizona State in a tight one last Friday. But we'll take the NFL momentum going into Week 11 here as we make more picks for the upcoming slate. And, of course, we have Northwestern and Gonzaga hoops. Northwestern coming off a tough loss at Dayton last Saturday, bouncing back with a win on Tuesday against UIC, preparing for their matchup tomorrow with Eastern Illinois. And Gonzaga, 20-point favorites last Sunday against Arizona State. Coming down to the wire, Arizona State looking good, but Gonzaga prevailing in Spokane with an 8-point dub, 88-80. They prepare for UMass Lowell on Friday with a tough matchup next week at San Diego State Monday night. So Zag's schedule continues to get tough as their classic non-conference survival in the beginning of the season. Fichtner Cup, Week 11. As always, we'll have our power rankings, our predictions, matchups for this week. A lot of 5-5 teams in Fichtner world. A lot of 5-5 teams. Bills team right now is 5-5. We got a battle. We were 5-3. We're now 5-5. So RMT gonna have to battle in Fick land. We're still in the playoff picture though. Still in the playoff picture up in Fick world. Lots to talk about. Getting into fantasy football. Bet of the week this week. RMT bet of the week. As I said, we did not cash last week, which means that we have to cash this week, right? We have to cash this week. We got to get a bounce back. So we'll start today's segment with the RMT bet of the week. And we're taking it to the NFL here. Thursday night matchup here. Huge Thursday night game. Washington Commanders at Philadelphia Eagles. Commanders are +4 on the road. 7-3 against a 7-2. Both haven't lost a divisional game yet. Both 2-0 inside the division. This is what you call a primetime game, right? It's on Amazon Prime for a reason. Primetime Thursday night. We've had a couple good Thursday nights in a row. We had Bengals, Ravens last week, Commanders, and Eagles this week. This is the type of game where, normally I'd look at this and go, oh, Commanders +4, right? They've been good this year. Jaden Daniels coming off a tough loss against Pittsburgh. But the Eagles are just a team where I feel like, every time you go against Philly because you think, Nick Sirianni, he just doesn't have it. Going up against a young gun squad with Jaden Daniels in the Washington Commanders, it's begging you to take the points, right? You're trying to be sharp. But this is where you just don't overthink it. So the bet of the week this week is going to be Philadelphia on the money line, parlayed with Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown. Saquon Barkley -180 to score. I feel like when you see a player that's -180 to score a touchdown, you got to hammer it, right? But I don't want that juice, so I'm going to parlay with the Eagles money line. I want nothing to do with that -4 spread. I think the game will be fairly close, right? But I think the Eagles push their way to a victory tonight. Saquon, right, not finding the end zone last week, right? I don't think, and in fact, I know for a fact that he has always bounced back after not scoring a touchdown. He's only not scored a touchdown in 2 games this season. And he has scored in every game after that he's not scored. So we like the bounce back game from Saquon. We think he's going to eat per usual. He's been one of the best running backs in the NFL. I feel like the Eagles are going to be in the red zone a fair amount. And I think Saquon finds the end zone. So Eagles money line, parlay with Saquon Barkley, just anytime touchdown. Plus money right there. +110 on FanDuel. Good value right there. And another bet we're going to do on the side, right? So that's my main play. My side play of the night is going to be Devontae Smith, anytime touchdown on the Philadelphia Eagles, +210. It's his birthday today. We love betting on someone when they're lighting up the candles. Birthday touchdown for Devontae Smith. That's a smaller unit play. It's more juicy, right? But we love it. He's at home. Devontae Smith actually been a dog this year. Pretty much has scored in every other game this season, right? Coming off a game where he didn't score last week, he's going to score this week. Devontae Smith, anytime touchdown, right? And now that's separately, right? It's Philly and Saquon to score. That's its own play. Devontae Smith on the side, a little sprinkle, as they say, anytime birthday touchdown. And yeah, I think the Eagles tonight, right? It's going to be a good game, but I think, being at home, the crowd's going to be going crazy. Right, Philly on a run right now, right? 5 games in a row. Yes, they've been beaten up, right, on teams they should beat. But I feel like tonight is a true test for them to show, hey, we can beat better teams in the league, right? And being a divisional opponent tonight, I feel like it's a must-win for the Eagles. Despite being 7-2, you don't want to give the Commanders, right, that confidence to feel like they can win this division. The Eagles want this division. It is the Eagles' division to lose. I like Philly tonight. I like Saquon. And I like Devontae Smith to find that end zone. Going to the NBA here, right? So before we get to my NFL picks, right, we're going to stop in Chicago for a little Bulls, our first Bulls segment on the live pod. Big win this week. Big win against the New York Knicks, 124-123 in New York. Jalen Brunson with the chance to win it at the buzzer, going in and out. Kobe White, right, when the Bulls were down 2 with 5 seconds left, getting fouled from 3-point range, making all 3 free throws. And the Bulls continue to kind of surprise the league a little bit. I know 5-7 is nothing to gloat about, right? 5-7 is a place where, you're under 500. right? But in an Eastern Conference where it always feels like if you just hang around the 500 mark, you have a chance to make the playoffs. The Bulls right now look like a team that I can't I can't say they're a playoff team, but they're right on the cusp, right? And this is a team that has tripled down on their roster, right? Vucevic, Levine. Those are two guys I just I was gonna say DeRozan, but they got rid of DeRozan. He's in Sacramento now. But guys like Vucevic, Levine, they're guys that they're heavily invested in, and I feel like we're at that point where the Bulls have an expectation, with a low bar, right? And that's sad, right? You want to have expectations for your team, especially being a Chicago sports fan, growing up with D Rose, and even before my time with Jordan. There's always a guy, right? And I feel like that's what the Bulls are struggling with these days. Is they're trying to find their identity. Is Levine the guy? I don't think so, right? He's a great player. He always seems to, when you doubt him, make great plays. But too many times down the stretch, Levine, I feel like, hasn't had our back. And there's plenty of games where he does, right? But it just feels like with the money that he's making, right, there should be, some more results on our team. And he's had trouble with, staying on the floor, a lot of injuries on his tenure on the Bulls. And that's been a problem for the Bulls since I can remember, is players not being able to stay healthy for the course of a season or the course of their tenure on the roster. A guy that I really like on the Bulls that I feel like had a lot of scrutiny when he started off on the team, especially his second or third year, and that's Kobe White. Someone I feel like that's really stepped up into his role on the Chicago Bulls, which is a pure shooter, right? He can ball handle. His ball handling and turnovers, right, have been so much better than when he started off on the Bulls. And I feel like Kobe White, right, he doesn't seem to be afraid to take that shot, right, to be that guy that you can rely on at the end of the game to, hey, I can win you this ball game. And Tuesday was a great example in New York, or Wednesday, I should say, hitting those 3 free throws with 4 seconds left, putting the team on his back. Look at the points that the Bulls had on Wednesday night. Look at how spread out this was. Patrick Williams, 18. Vucevic, 19. Kobe White, 22. Zach LaVine, 31. Right? Ayo Dosunmu, 16 off the bench. That's another guy. Right? Chicago-born, graduating from U of I, coming back to Chicago. Ayo's a guy that I love. I love that we've held on to him. He's still so young. Him and Kobe White could be an electric backcourt for a long time. Now, that's not, that's saying that they stay together on the Bulls. You never know on the NBA what can happen, especially on the trade horizon, on a team like the Bulls who, they're not guaranteed any roster spot because, when you're a team that struggles to make the playoffs, you tend to rotate your roster around. But it seems like the Bulls have the same team every year, so maybe you just keep using the same team and hope for things to change. It's tough being a Chicago basketball fan. I definitely am a diehard Bulls fan, but for the last decade, it's been tough to give this team your full attention. But when they play games like they do on Wednesday in New York, and they grind it out and beat a good Knicks team, right? That's a playoff team. That's a legit playoff contender for the last 5-6 years with Thibodeau. It makes you feel, okay, why can't we do this every night? And I think that's what the Bulls struggle with normally is their consistency. So let's, we're 4-3 on the road this year, 1-4 at home. Just kind of weird. Like you don't see that a lot in the NBA. Usually you rack up your consistent wins at home and you do your best on the road. Bulls over 500 on the road, way in the red at home, 1-4 at home. Let's see if the Bulls can string together a few games here and get over that 500 mark, right? 5-7 is all dandy. Let's see if we can get 11-9, right? I'm just spitballing here as a fan. string together a couple of wins, get me back intrigued, right? It seems to be every time I jump back on the train. That's not saying I get off the train, right? But when someone would be like, oh, did you see the Bulls? I'm like, they've been stinking. And then I give them a chance, and I'm like, okay. And then I really start diving back in, and then they start sucking. So it's a love-hate relationship. Always love. It's just sometimes you want to see those results as a fan, and you don't get them. But right now, the Bulls, they're hanging in there. Let's see if they can keep proving people wrong and continue to strive and be the Bulls that we were always, driven to be, right? Make Jordan proud, even though I don't think he cares at this point. I probably care more than Jordan. That's probably the case for a lot of things, right? As sports fans, sports bettors, it seems to me that we as fans sometimes care a little more than the player because the player is making millions of dollars. So then there's that whole thing. NBA is one of my, people, especially nowadays, are like, oh, I hate the NBA. Well, I got League Pass and I watch a lot of NBA. It can be frustrating, but it's fun. I like college basketball too. I mean, I don't argue that. College ball is where it's at. Which is leading us, into this time of year where it's like Thanksgiving tournaments, college ball, college football is kind of like getting to that nitty gritty. NFL, right? Do or die. This is a good time. I feel like I said it every time. I make an excuse for every part of the year that it's the best time of the year to watch sports, but it's true. College basketball is weird, like right when it starts though. But it's like you're playing all these like weird games against like crappier schools. It's kind of all these lose-lose situations where it's like, well, you got to win, but if you lose, it looks really bad. If you win, well, you're supposed to. But not last Saturday. So Northwestern taking on the Dayton Flyers last Saturday night. Like I said on the podcast, it was going to be a dogfight, and damn right it was. Northwestern, 4-point underdogs going into that game. Had a 10-point lead with 10 minutes to go, but wasn't able to get it done down the stretch. Losing to Dayton by 6. It was a tough pill to swallow at the end of the game. Dayton, 23 net ranking. So if you don't know what the net ranking is, it's a system that the college committee uses heavily nowadays. It takes into account strength of schedule, strength of opponent, home, away, quad 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If you get a quad 1 win, that's good. Quad 4 win is against a weaker team. So this was a quad 1 road game for Northwestern. So the good news about that is it doesn't affect your strength of schedule, or I should say like your overall ranking. If you lose because you're taking on a good Dayton team at home, you're not supposed to win that game. But of course, it looks really good if you can get it done. And the Cats were 10 minutes away until Dayton decided to press the hell out of us, and we couldn't dribble the ball up the floor. Great, we still were missing Brooks Barnheiser. So Brooks Barnheiser has not played a game yet. He's missed our first 3 games this season. Hopefully he's back tomorrow against Eastern Illinois. I don't think we'll need him, knock on wood, right, for tomorrow's game. But I have a feeling he's close to being back. He's been warming up every game. He's trying to get back from that stress fracture he had in the offseason. They keep saying it's not a big deal, but when you miss 3 games, you miss 3 games. So having him on Saturday would have been a huge help bringing up the ball at the end of the game. We were relying on a lot of inexperienced ball handlers, especially in the Northwestern backcourt. So it was hard to watch the end of the game, but give Dayton credit. They played hard. They didn't give up. They started hitting shots at the game. Dayton was ice cold all game. Granted, the Cats' defense was good, but they were definitely missing some open shots. So good effort from Cats. I was a little pissed, as I always am after a loss, but I got myself back quickly because we had UIC coming into town on Tuesday. Who UIC, right? People are like, oh well, you got to play UIC. Like that's an easy win. UIC was, they're a Missouri Valley Conference, powerhouse this year, right? And you can't always say that about UIC, but this year they're projected to do pretty well in that conference, and that's a conference that has like Drake, Wichita State. So they got some decent teams in that conference. So you can't take a team like UIC lightly. And Northwestern, only having a 2-point lead at halftime, was able to figure it out in the second half with an 83-74 win. Not able to cover that minus 15.5 spread. Granted, you can't take that in Illinois. You can't bet on Illinois schools. So thankfully, I was not on that spread. Otherwise, I would have had different things to say about them today. A win's a win in Northwestern land. I don't care if we cover. That's the one time I don't care if we cover because I ain't betting on it. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise because I don't want to lose and bet on the Cats. That's a smart betting tip. You don't want to bet with your heart, right? All the teams you love, right? If you're betting on them, most part you are blinded by the fact that you like them. I've learned that with the Bulls, right? I've lost a lot of money on the Bulls, especially, no one really has any reason betting on the Bulls. But if you do, usually it comes back to haunt you because you're like, well, why am I betting on this organization? So that's my tip on that. That's my betting 101 tip for all you gamblers that like to bet on your teams that you like. Don't. It's a trap. It's all a trap. But Northwestern, right? 2-1 on the year. Has Eastern Illinois coming into town on Friday. Nick Martinelli, Big Ten Player of the Week last week. So lefty, who I scouted out his freshman year 2 years ago, killing it on the Cats wouldn't be anywhere without Martinelli. So once Barnheiser comes back, get those two some chemistry. Cats are going to be on their way. They returned the most minutes in the Big Ten from any group last season. Granted, they're still projected to finish 16th out of 18th. We heard that stat. The announcers couldn't even believe it during the Dayton game. That's just inaccurate. If they finish 16th out of 18th, I'll be shocked. This is still, a team that, yes, they lack, the true superstar. Even Abu Bowie, who's an unbelievable player, my favorite player on Northwestern. I don't even know if I'd even call him a superstar, right? They lack that Cooper Flagg Duke player. Most teams do, right? But, Northwestern especially, they play hard. But that's one thing that they, usually struggle with is their athleticism. But not next season. So, before we go into our, Gonzaga here, Northwestern with the top 10 recruiting class for next season. That's unheard of. 5 recruits signed, 3 stars and a 4-star. So really, really cool to see these 5 guys officially sign with Northwestern. Trey Singleton, forward from Jeffersonville, I should say. Phoenix Gill, son of Kendall Gill. Kendall Gill, post-game announcer for the Chicago Bulls. So Kendall Gill, his son, choosing to go to Northwestern. Huge signing there. Jake West, freshman from Philadelphia, top 115 recruit. Tyler Kropp from Ohio. And then Cade Bannerman, who might be my favorite one of them all. 6'11", from Nashville, Tennessee. He was actually a late addition. 7'5" wingspan. 60-inch box jump. I don't see guys going to Northwestern with those type of stats. I was watching his highlights. He can dribble the ball down the floor. He can shoot threes, shoot over people. We have hope for the future here in Evanston. So this year, right, yeah, I think Northwestern's going to grind, and I think we're going to be a tough team. And I think we got a good chance to make the tournament again. But next year is going to be our start of something new here in Evanston. Having a boost like that, with having 4 or 5 recruits actually come in, right, help your program out, huge for Northwestern. Looking forward to good times here in Evanston. Gonzaga hoops here. I touched on it briefly. Gritty win this past Sunday against the Sun Devils, Arizona State. Gonzaga, they like to play around with me. They always do. 20-point favorites on Sunday, right? So, you got your NFL games on, and all of a sudden Gonzaga's on at 4 o'clock on Sunday. So you got to turn Zags on, right? And Arizona State's just knocking down contested threes. Gonzaga looking sloppy. They still have the lead, but Arizona State's, they feel confident. They're hanging around. At some point in the second half, Arizona State takes a 4-point lead. Do you remember me saying that Gonzaga was 20.5-point favorites? Sometimes the spread just doesn't matter in in the beautiful game of college basketball, which is why we love it. Right? Yes, Gonzaga is always going to be a high favorite against most teams. You got to give the Sun Devils credit, right? They don't care what the sports line is, right? They play hard every game, right? Like every college team should. Coached by an ex-Duke guy, Bobby Hurley, right? He's the Sun Devils coach. So any team with like an ex-Duke guy, who's played at high-level ball, always have to expect that team to play hard. And that's exactly what Arizona State did. So honestly, great win for Gonzaga. Keeps their undefeated season alive at 2-0. But 2-0 is 2-0. And could have easily lost that game. A good team like Gonzaga, though, they know how to figure a game like that out. Get an 8-point dub. Only makes you stronger, right? Having these close games. You don't want to blow every team out. We've learned that. You got to play close games. You got to finish close games. It's exactly what Gonzaga did. Proud of the boys. We move on to UMass Lowell on Friday with a San Diego State matchup on Monday. That's going to be really intriguing. So Monday at San Diego State, Friday at home against UMass Lowell. I love that name. I think it's Lowell, actually. It's like Lowell, UMass Lowell. So should take care of business, knock on wood. Next Monday is going to be a battle. So after Monday, though, we got one more game and then the turkey tournaments. So strap it down. Battle for Atlantis for Gonzaga this year. They got to play West Virginia first round. If they win that first round and the Hoosiers win that first round, they're going to be meeting up in the semis for that Thanksgiving tournament. So a lot of basketball to be played. As I said, we're getting into the heart of it. Let's go Cats. Let's go Zags. Let's go Bolts. It's now time for our Week 11 NFL picks. Like I said, 10-3 last week, 11-3 if you count the Tyreek Hill touchdown. Who's counting? I guess I am. But giving the people what they want, right? So this week we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go through a rundown of each matchup here this week. We already did the Thursday night game, the Eagles money line with Saquon Barkley to score. You could take -4, but I wouldn't. That's a scary line, -4. At home against a good team. You want to stick with the money line if you can. Add in that Saquon touchdown. You won't regret it. Eagles at home over the Commanders this Thursday night. Bears-Packers, right? That's the first game that pops up on my noon slate on Sunday here in the NFL. It's probably because I have the Bears favorited on ESPN. 4-1 at home. 4-1 for the Bears. Playing the Packers this week. This is... I almost, what did I say in my recent segment? Not to bet on the teams that you love. And that's what we did last week, right? Bears, one of the 3 teams that effed up the RMT 13-legger. And we're not going to make the same mistake again. This is a no-bet game for me on the podcast. The first ever no-bet game. I don't want the Bears and their demise to fool RMT and the viewers and rob us our money here. I can't give you a pick. In my heart, man, I want the Bears to beat the Packers so bad. I don't care what our record is. I want to beat the Packers. I can't safely say that on the podcast that we could beat them. Right? I don't want to look like a fool and be like, yeah, Bears over the Packers. Like, the Packers should beat the Bears. Right? It's sad to say that, right? But they should come into Soldier Field and take us down. Now, this could be the opportunity for the opposite narrative of a Caleb Williams with the new offensive coordinator, Brian Thomas, and the Bears, Matt Eberflus's ship. We could ride into the sunset here with a win over the Packers. Any win over the Packers is a win over the Packers. We don't know what that feels like in a long time. So this could be a game where the Bears could do that, right? Everyone's going to be on the Packers. So if I was a sharp bettor and I wasn't a Chicago Bears fan, if I was somebody else, I'd bet the Bears spreads plus 5.5. But that's not my pick. That's not RMT's pick. This is a no bet game for me here in this slate. The over-under, 40.5. I don't like that either. I'm not an over-under guy. I'm not going to sit here and give you an over-under pick. But I'm going to do the responsible thing. No bet game. Let's move on. I don't even want to talk about the Bears. I had this whole thing planned of what I was going to say, but I just feel like they're not even worth the viewers' time. So no bet Bears-Packers. Go Bears per usual. Let's see if we can take Green Bay down. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions catching 14 points here at home against the Jaguars. 14 points. I don't know if I can sit here and say I'm confident in minus 14, but that is what we are taking. We are taking the Lions minus 14 here, right? Too many points, yes, but if the line is legitimately minus 14, I think the Lions might win by 40 points here. Jared Goff, coming off a 5-interception game and still getting the win last week in Houston. How do you even do that? How do you throw for 5 interceptions and still win the game? But they did. And the Jaguars 0-5 away, 2-8 on the season. They're playing for a draft pick next year. Lions are going to murder them. They're going to absolutely dismantle the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not even going to be close. I get if you want to stay away. This could be a stay away game, but we're not staying away for any other games other than Chicago Bears. We're going with the Detroit Lions minus 14. The money line, I'm sure, is minus 8 million. So we're going with the spread here. At home, don't overthink it. Detroit by 5 touchdowns on Sunday. Minnesota Vikings at Tennessee Titans. This is where things maybe gets a little frisky because the line on this game is minus 6 Vikings at Tennessee. We rode with the Jaguars last week, plus 7 against the Vikings at home. The Vikings won 12-7. We are going to do the same thing again with the 2-7 Titans, plus 6 at home. Maybe we'll buy a point to plus 7 or 6.5 for a half point. But let's just ride with plus 6 Tennessee. Definitely a sprinkle on the money line. The over-under is 39.5. This is a game where exactly every single person that I know is going to bet on the Minnesota Vikings. As they probably should, right? They are a better football team than the Tennessee Titans. But when it comes to the numbers, they should be minus 14 against the Tennessee Titans, and they are only laying 6. I know they're on the road, but a 2-7 team, I can't believe it's not even at least 10. So the line's a little weird. I think the Titans hang around. I don't know if they win, but it's worth the plus 6. I love once it gets to around those 6-7. I'm a sucker for especially when you're at home. That's the big thing. Are you at home? And it's always situational. But I love the Titans plus 6 here in this spot. It's nasty, but I like getting nasty. Las Vegas Raiders at Miami Dolphins. The 2-7 Raiders taking on the 3-6 Dolphins. Dolphins coming off a Monday night win at LA. So you get your quarterback back in Tua. You win a ball game. Tyreek Hill scores, all as well. Laying 7 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. I believe Gardner Minshew is back at the helm for the Raiders quarterback. That Raiders, it's looking bleak out in Las Vegas. I like the Dolphins here, getting the 7 points at home. It's a lot of points for me for the Dolphins. I prefer taking the money line here. So I think it's a Dolphins money line play for me. For the sake of the show, I'll say minus 7. But when I say for the sake of the show, that means I'm not going to bet physically minus 7. But I will be taking their money line in a parlay. And for the sake of the show, minus 7. So if you want to get frisky, take the 7 points. I bet you it goes to at least 7.5 by Sunday. It's a nasty game, but Dolphins still technically alive. You're 3-6, coming off a win against a really good Rams team on the road. No reason you can't beat the Raiders at home the following week. Give me the Miami Dolphins. Keep their little streak going here. LA Rams at New England Patriots. The 4-5 Rams taking on the 3-7 Patriots. Minus 5 on the road here in New England. God, Patriots are 1-3 at home. Rams are 1-3 on the road. Someone's going to have to give. Patriots coming off a big win in Chicago. Rams coming off a loss against Miami. I got to go Rams in this spot here. Laying the 5 points, ballsy, going against my +5, +6, +7 routine against teams at home. I just don't think the Patriots are very good. Cole will disagree with me here. But, I just feel like the Rams need this game bad, right? They're 4-5, and there's no way they should be in a ball game with the New England Patriots. But that being said, exactly for that very reason, the Patriots might be the play here. But we're going with my gut here. I like the Rams better than the Patriots. I just feel like, 3-7. Patriots, they're building for the future with Drake May, but the Rams are here for now. If the Rams lose this game, their season's over, 100%. So I think this is a playoff game for the Rams being on the road. They're going to be motivated. Coming off a tough loss, as I said last week, I love a Rams team coming off a loss. Give me Rams -5. Give me Rams money line in a parlay with the Miami Dolphins. Right? You just heard that first. Miami Dolphins money line parlayed with LA Rams money line. Book it. That's my play. Spread separately. Rams on the road here. Cleveland Browns going into New Orleans here. Saints -1 at home against the Cleveland Browns here. Jameis Winston, revenge game. We're riding with the Cleveland Browns here, +1 on the road. Winston coming to eat that W, eat that W in New Orleans, playing against his former squad. We like the Browns here. This is the poop bowl of the week, right? 2-7 against 3-7. The line is pretty much even. The Saints getting a win last week against Atlanta. But look at that. You're 3-point underdogs against Atlanta. You win that game, and you're only 1-point favorites against the 2-7 Cleveland Browns. That's all I need to see right there. Cleveland Browns. Give me them for plus money. Hammer the Cleveland Browns this week. It sounds illegal what I just said. Hammer the Cleveland Browns. I should be locked up for saying that. Here, look, I'll put my hands on my back. I'm locked up, right, for saying that. But hammer the Cleveland Browns. Plus money. Jameis time. Let's go. Indianapolis Colts taking on the New York Jets here in New York. Jets coming off a horrendous loss to the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals are a good team out in Arizona, but the Jets just look like a helpless team. -4 against the Colts. No way the Jets should be -4 at all, period. They are a horrible team. The Colts, not too much better, but they play hard at least, right? And that's exactly why we're going to take Colts +4 on the road. 1-4 on the road. Jets are 2-2 at home. I think the Jets, they might squeak out a win here, but it's going to be close. The Colts, this just screams Colts +4. I think the game's going to be gross and close, and I think Colts might sneak out with a W, but I would not be surprised if the Jets win out a game-winning field goal. So Colts +4 on the road in New York. Tickets as low as $28 for this game. I love that ESPN puts that up, right? You can see what teams are shit. For instance, the next game, Ravens-Steelers, tickets as low as $244. Right, so you can just see who's good, who's bad. But Colts +4, sprinkle the money line in New York. Give me the Colts all day here. Jets are done. Done! Right? Don't bet on the Jets. Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers. In Pittsburgh here. Baltimore -3 on the road. -3. And we're rocking with those Ravens. Steelers coming off a huge win at the Commanders last week, sneaking out with a 1-point win in Washington. The Ravens taking care of business on their end last week in a sneaky game. Sneaky good Thursday night game with the Bengals. But we like the Ravens. I feel like if the Steelers, this is a 7-3 against a 7-2 team, and the Steelers are still 3-point dogs at home, you'd feel like they'd be favored here based on what the record says. But the books know who the better team is here, and so do you guys. The Baltimore Ravens, -3 here on the road. It's a primetime noon game, but we love Baltimore here. Lamar, notoriously bad against Pittsburgh. Notoriously bad. Like, I think they're his worst opponent. Right? I love it, though. He's so due to go off on Pittsburgh just one time. Right? One time. Big AFC matchup here. I mean, big time game. But I love Baltimore here. I think it's a prove-it game for Baltimore. They're not scared of Pittsburgh. Lamar, Pittsburgh revenge game. You heard it here first. Ravens, baby, on Sunday. Steelers, I respect their defense, but when you go up against a team like Lamar and you got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields on the other side, there's no way in hell they should be sticking around with this Ravens team. I know the Ravens can get a little frisky on defense, but they seem to show up when it really matters. So Ravens, -3. Put them in a money line, your parlays. I'm excited for this RMT parlay this week. This is going to be juicy. I got Cleveland Browns. I got Baltimore Ravens. We're getting down in the trenches this week. We love what we're seeing here. Atlanta Falcons at the Denver Broncos. 2.5-point favorites for the Broncos here. This is a tough game. Really tough game here. The Falcons 3-1 on the road. Coming off a loss against the Saints. Broncos also coming off a tough loss against the Chiefs, right? Blocked field goal for Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs, getting that 2-point dub. I really want to take the Falcons here, but I feel like Denver, -2.5 at home. I'm going to roll with the Denver Broncos here. This is a ballsy play. But the Falcons, you see them at plus money and it's tempting. The Falcons, I feel like when I touch the Falcons, they're a weird team. Denver defense at home, I think they get it done against the Falcons. I think the Falcons lose 2 games in a row, making both teams 6-5. I like Denver here. On paper, I see Falcons. I'm like, oh, plus money Falcons. There's a reason Denver. I feel like if the Falcons were really going to win this game, they'd be the ones -2.5. So we're taking the Broncos -2.5 at home. Ballsy play here, really ballsy. I'd probably take them in a money line parlay. I don't love -2.5, but again, for the sake of the show, -2.5 it is. A field goal win for the Denver Broncos. Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. 6.5-point favorites for the Niners here, taking on the Hawks. I believe these two already played each other this year, and it was the Niners squeaking out a victory. I love the revenge factor here for Geno Smith and the Hawks. 4-5, catching 6.5 points on the road as a dog. I'm a sucker for it. Plus 6.5 Seahawks. We're taking that this week. Must-win game. I don't know if they're going to win the game. I just feel like this has the making of a grind-it-out game. Ground and pound. These games are always good. I think for the television ratings, they have to make this a close game. Hey, tickets as low as $100. This game's going to be close. It's a primetime game. Give me the 6 points and the Seahawks. Seahawks plus 6.5 on the road. They don't have their 12th man, but they do have Geno Smith at the helm. They're gonna make it a ball game this weekend. They might even get the W. I love the rematch game here. Give me Geno and the boys. Plus 6.5. Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo Bills here. We're getting down to the last few games here, and then I swear to the Fick fans, we're getting into the fantasy, but I gotta get to these first 3 games. Chiefs Bills here. Bills -2 at home against the Chiefs. It would make such for a good story for the Bills to be the first team to beat the Chiefs this year. Chiefs 9-0. They shouldn't be 9-0. They should not be 9-0. And we're going to bet against the Chiefs again this week. Buffalo Bills. Hey, we took the Broncos on the spread last week. We cashed. We're taking the Bills -2 here against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're due. If there's some team that's motivated to beat the Chiefs, and that could beat the Chiefs, it's the 8-2 Bills. A team that I feel like was doubted on this year, and they've continued to win ball games. Josh Allen looks great. James Cook at running back. Their defense has been actually very good. Not that the Bills' defense usually isn't, but I feel like they weren't being talked about as much. But if there's some team that's motivated to beat the Chiefs, it's the Bills. Give me the Bills at home on a late 3 o'clock slate. Brisk game, maybe. Get it. Tickets as low as $236 for this game. People are going to be showing out. We got Bills Mafia. Give me the Bills at home. They're so due for a win. The Chiefs own the Bills. Come on, Bills. Get it done at home. We're taking the Buffalo Bills. We're taking the kids here. We're taking the underdog kids. Even though they're favorites, they're still underdogs. Cincinnati Bengals at LA Chargers. Sunday night game here. Chargers -1.5 here against the Bengals. We're taking the Bengals here, +1.5. I like the way the Bengals played last week. They should have honestly, they were right. I'm not going to say they should have won in front of Jonas here, being the Ravens fan that he is. But I will say they looked good, and they had definitely their chances to win that game. They didn't, but I like the way they looked. The Chargers have been impressing me too. 6-3, 3-1 at home. But again, you're 6-3 against a 4-6 team, and you're only -1.5. The books know it's going to be close. Give me the Bengals in a must-win game. Being 4-6, they got to win this game. You got to get to 5-6. You can't go to 4-7. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals +1.5 and the money line. Sunday night ball in LA. There's probably people always travel to LA, especially in prime time. Expect more Bengals fans there than Chargers fans. And the last game we have here, Monday night game, Houston Texans at the Dallas Cowboys. Houston Texans -7.5 here at Dallas. Dallas 0-4 this year at home. No Dak Prescott. Morale is low. You're catching 7.5 as a dog at home. This is a tough one. I feel like in my gut, the Texans are going to win this game on paper, but I just feel like the Cowboys, man, you're 0-4 at home. Give me Cowboys +7.5. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I feel like the Texans, they're going to keep it close. I just have that feeling, right? They should win by 50. It's exactly for this reason why I'm taking the Cowboys +7.5. I feel like that's the wrong move, but it's also the right move at the same time. So Cowboys +7.5 at home against the Texans. I'm not going to sprinkle the money line, even though I probably should. Maybe we'll see where I am on Sunday. But I feel like the Cowboys are going to hang around. So those are our NFL Week 11 picks. Going into fantasy football here, the Fichtner Cup is back. It's back and better than ever, right? I love doing this podcast, and a big reason why is because of the Fichtner League that I've been a part of for over a decade now. Again, trophy right here. Fichtner Cup trophy, baby. Right? Some people really wish to have that trophy. It's mine right now. It is mine right now. Third time having it. All right, we're going to repeat that, third time champion, because I can. It's my podcast. It's my decision to run this fantasy podcast, and everyone in my league, right? I love you, but you're also a douche, right? So I will take this trophy, and I will keep it until someone takes it from me, aka wins it from me, right? So let's get into it. That's my cocky RMT side coming out of me. Can't help it. But let's go to the standings here. Let's go to the power rankings. Lot of action last week. I guess before we get into the power rankings here, we can go to last week's matchup, Week 10 matchups here. And let's start with my own matchup here. The 2x4's Luke Liebert getting a 109.52 to 77.3 win over RMT, Bill South Beach Bitches. That's the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of Bill's team earlier on the pod, so that's why I was stumbling through Bill. I really just wanted to highlight my dad's name for the people, but big loss for RMT, moving them to 5-5, moving to 2x4s to 7-3. Huge win for Lebo. Yeah, it was close for a while, but Brock Purdy with 23, James Cook 15, Amon-Ra 15, got it done down the stretch. When Minnesota defense with 15 is their second best player, it's tough to rally from that. Josh Allen with 18, would have liked a little more. Tough week for the squad, but we rally back. We're 5-5. On the outside looking in right now into the playoffs, we're tied with 4 other teams, all at 5-5. Lot to be resolved this year in Fick. Biederman fundamentals taking on Peggy Boyd, Take Your Kisses, Matthew Kleinhans. It was Kleinhans getting the dub here, 116.2 to 92. 7-3 now is Kleinhans, 5-5. The Biederman fundamentals move to 30-point showing for Jalen Hurts for Biederman. But that's about it. Kareem Hunt and Jonathan Taylor both with 13. Lamar with 32. Chase Brown 17. Drake London 13 for Peggy Boyd. Peggy Boyd continues to inspire the league with his play here. Doing the hot dog. We actually haven't checked in on Kleinhans and his hot dogs. I haven't seen any video evidence. So it's hard for me to believe that he's done the challenge. I feel like we'll know pretty soon if he falters here and doesn't give us the evidence. Definitely the Fick gods will come down with karma. So we got to check in with the hot dogs here, but continues to amaze us with his fantasy play this year. 7-3, 4-speed reckoned with in this league, tied for first with 2 other players. So love what Peggy Boyd has done with the team this year. Biedermans have to find that voice in the locker room. They tend to win, lose. So right in the playoff hunt, right? They have a playoff spot right now. Biedermans need to bring it next week to stay in that hunt. Team Cough Daddy taking on Minneapolis Mike Caputo's. And it was Team Cough Daddy with a 94-90 grinded out win in Minneapolis. It was a game that Cough Daddy wanted. It was a game that MMC really needed. Bijan Robinson 27, Bucky Irving 16. But George Pickens for Cough Daddy giving him an 18, Derrick Henry 13, Laporta 14, just enough to grind it out a gross 94-90 win. Moving Cough Daddy to 7-3, tying him for first with the 2x4s and Peggy. Moving Minneapolis to 3-7. Really going to need to find a run the last 4 weeks. Probably needs to win out to make the playoffs this year. Not like MMC. I'm sure he'd say the same thing. But if there's one player I know that would come back from 3-7, it's Minneapolis. So don't count him out just quite yet. But Cough Daddy gets the dub. Keeps his foot down on a high playoff seed, trying to get that bye first week of the playoffs. Big Sam taking on Commission's down year. And it was Big Sam getting the 125 to 100 win over Holman here. Moving both of these teams to 5-5. Jamar Chase, really the storyline here, getting that 50-point spot against Commish. Commish did have Joe Burrow for 33, Chuba Hubbard 22, but Philly D for Kuhn 20. So Jamar Chase and Philly D combining for 70 is ridiculous. But nonetheless, a huge win. Both teams moving to 5-5. So really tightening up those last few seeds in the playoffs. But huge win for Big Sam. Disappointing loss for Commissioner. Or Commissioner's down year, I should say, as he started off with a 3-1 record this year. Doing the same thing as RMT, moving to 5-5. We both got to pick it up next week. Last matchup here, before we go into our power rankings here, we have the Commissioner himself, Luke Boyd, taking on the Anaheim Angelos. Name change here for Pastuovic. Not enough as the Commissioner gets the 90-84 dub against Big Ticket, moving the Crankers to 1-9. Not even a name change to Anaheim Angelos can save him. With the Commissioner getting a bounce back win this week, moving to 5-5. As I said, 5 players now with a 5-5 record. Big Sam, Holman, the Commissioner, Nasser, and myself. So moving into the end of the year here, a lot of magic to happen here. A lot of pain. It's why we play fantasy. It's why we play the game. I love this part of the year in fantasy football. Men become boys. Boys got to figure it out. Before we get into the Fichtner Cup power rankings, I want to give a shout out to Spice, the kitty here. You can't see Spice in the shot, but she has been watching this whole show in the background. The good kitty she is. Usually Spice gets a little shy when the cameras come out, but Spice, cute kitty that she is, Stayed out for the whole show. She's being too sweet. You're too sweet for kitties. That's out to Allie Foley right there. Too sweet. Our favorite song on the radio, especially with the kitty. Fantasy football standings here. The power rankings. Getting into them here. Going into number 10 here. The Anaheim Angelos. 1-9 on the season. Was number 10 last week on the power rankings. They're staying at number 10 this week. 1-9. 9 losses in a row for Pastujevic. 9 losses in a row. Got to be a record, right? Starting off the season 1-0, not making the playoffs for a decade, and now a 1-9 start to the year. He will be, once again, not in the playoffs. I'm not sure if we'll see Tiggett in the next year's league. He's made promises that if he doesn't make the playoffs soon, he won't be doing fantasy football. It's a true test of character here. Can you stay in the league long enough to grind out the drought? We're going on about a decade here. Gonna have to wait till next season. But a sad year for the Angelos. 1-9, number 10 in the power rankings. Number 9 here. The Minneapolis Mike Caputos. Number 9 last week. Number 9 again in the power rankings. Not being able to get it done against Team Cough Daddy. ESPN gives him that 6% chance to make the playoffs. So if he wins out here, goes to 7-7, right? We could see with tiebreakers, Minneapolis maybe being able to sneak in, but with how many 5-5 teams there are, it's going to be tight. He's going to need a lot of teams to lose out. Going to be interesting to see if MMC could pull off a miracle. As I said, can never doubt him, but number 9 for this week's power rankings. Number 8, we have the Commissioner getting a bounce back win this week. Needed one to get back to 5-5. He got it. Tying him with the other 5-5 players, but still coming in at number 8, right? Because you are still 2 spots out of the power rankings, or for the playoffs, I should say, in this power rankings sheet here on ESPN. And at number 7 here, Bill South Beach Bitches, man, one slide down from last week. We're at number 6 last week. Number 7 now, outside looking in. You hate to be on the outside of the playoffs in this position at this point of the year. But we still got 4 weeks left, right? Last year we were on the outside looking in for pretty much the last 5 weeks of the season. We were able to sneak in as that last seed. It does not matter what seed you are in the playoffs. It's why we play the game. All you got to do is make it. Plenty of time, 1 week at a time. We control our own destiny. We control our own destiny right now. We got to get a win this week, 1 week at a time. But 5-5 are still alive, but nonetheless at number 7, RMT, Bill South Beach. At number 6 here, a player that could not capitalize over a win over RMT last week, not being able to get it done this week, not chowing hard enough. The Biederman fundamentals, moving to 5-5, coming off a tough loss, but still in the playoffs here. Still that 6th seed. Still has time to establish that locker room voice in fundamentals land. What's the chow course going to be for the rest of the year for the Biedermans? Got to find a way to get above 500 next week to 6-5. At number 5, we got a guy that's been battling all season long. And here he is in the playoffs right now. Big Sam, 5-5. Starting off the season rough with the 2x4 and a couple losses, but here he is, blocking out the noise, going back to his fundamentals here with Jamar Chase. Currently the 5 seed right now in the playoffs at 5-5. Gonna have to get another win this week. But 5-5 is 5-5. And in the playoffs, according to ESPN, with the tiebreaker. So Big Sam coming in at number 5 for this week's power rankings. At number 4, we have the Commissions down here. Even after coming off a loss, right? He's better than a 5-5 team, in my opinion. Holman bias, so some will say. That's okay. But 5-5 and still being the 4 seed is scary because a loss here and a couple wins from a couple other players, you're on the outside looking in. So a lot of movement in the works the next couple of weeks. Be ready to tune in for these power rankings because there's going to be a lot of movement here in Ficht land. As I always say, it's why we play the game. But number 4, a frisky number 4 is Commissions down here. At number 3, we have Peggy Boy, Take Your Kisses, Matthew Kleinhans, staying at the top of that that top 3 threshold, trying to get that bye, right? So he's behind 2 players for that bye, but he's tied with them, right? So the top 3 players, all 7-3, who will take each other out to get that bye. Number 2, we have Team Cough Daddy, one of those 7-3 teams, 2 wins in a row. He might have even won 3 in a row. He might have won 3 weeks in a row. He came off a tough loss to RMT, using that as fuel, getting it done. Hey, I said if I bet against Coughlin last week, he'd get the W, and that's exactly what he did. It was a gross win, right? But an RMT fade. Cough Daddy gets a W, moving to 7-3, which puts him behind the number 1 team here again, right? The 2x4s, Luke Liebert, 7-3, getting a win over Bill South Beach last week. He might have the record right now for how long he stayed at number 1. Right, this is about the 5th or 6th week in a row. He's consistent, right? We still missed About That Action days. Great team name, but the 2x4s aren't too shabby as well. He's proven that he's a top dog in this league. He's due for a championship. I always have all the love for Lebo and his boys. So Lebo at number 1, the 2x4, 7-3. As I said, tied with 2 other teams. So we have 3 teams tied at 7-3. We have 5 teams tied at 5-5. A lot of movement to happen in the power rankings after Week 11, which takes us into our Week 11 matchups here. Starting with myself here, Bill's South Beach Bitches taking on Peggy Boyd. It's a rematch from earlier in the year where Drake London broke my heart on Monday night, which is exactly why we're going with RMT this week. On the road, 7-point underdogs. We love RMT in this matchup. Bounce back revenge spot. Needs a win bad. Peggy's on the streak. Streaks are meant to be broken. We're 7-point dogs. Give me the points and the money line here. RMT on the road. We're taking Bill's South Beach this week in Peggy Boyd land. Minneapolis Mike Caputo is taking on the 2x4s. Sneaky matchup here, right? Big favorites are the 2x4s at home against MMC. But we're taking MMC for a desperation win this week. Two sneaky rivals here, both UW-Madison boys. And we know Minneapolis is not going to give up easily. It's a sneaky spot, but we like Minneapolis here for a desperation win. Give me Minneapolis on the spread. Sprinkle the money line. 16-point dogs on the road, but we're not scared. Minneapolis gets it done. Commission's down here, taking on Biederman Fundamentals. 2 5-5 teams here. This feels like a playoff matchup here. Biederman Fundamentals, 6-point favorites at home. And we're taking the Fundamentals this week. Home spot, home cooking for the Fundamentals. No home and bias this week. I think Biederman gets it done at home. 2 teams that love duking it out against each other. We like Nassau at home here. Give me the Fundamentals. Holman struggling on the road this week. Commissioner taking on Team Cough Daddy here. This is rivalry week here. Commissioner and Coughlin go way back. This is a matchup that Coughlin also can't wait for. Give me Team Cough Daddy this week. We bet against them last week. We might be screwing him by betting him this week, but we're taking him over the Commissioner. Coughlin has this one circled on his schedule. 11-point favorites at home. Cough Daddy playing too well right now. Give me Team Cough Daddy at home. Spread and money line in a parlay. Team Cough Daddy gets it done against Commissioner. RMT also needs a win from Cough Daddy. We want a 5-5 team to lose. So give me Team Cough Daddy here. Last matchup we have here, the Anaheim Angelos taking on Big Sam. Poop Bowl of the year right here. All signs are telling me to take Big Sam here, which is exactly why we're going to fade that and take the Anaheim Angelos. 9 losses in a row. You got to be due at some point. We're taking Pastuovic here. I think he gets it done on the road. I don't think he cares, but I care, right? We need Big Sam at a 5-5 team to not get it done this week as well. Give me the Anaheim Angelos a dub on the road to break that streak. Power rankings, projections, right, and standings only mean so much. You have to earn it in this league, right? You can only be at the top for so long. Same goes for the bottom. You can only be at the bottom so long. Everything budges, right? It's why this league has existed for over a decade, right? It's always a grind. I love doing this week in and week out. It's an honor to be giving the world the Ficht news that we all deserve. Which brings me to the end of the second official live RMT podcast. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. As I said, over 30 views last week, right? Let's get to 50 this week. Spread the love. I'll be sharing this episode on Snapchat, Instagram. You can find it on YouTube. Follow the link. Subscribe, right? I never thought I was saying subscribe to the RMT Productions. All you got to do is hit subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Another shout out to Jonas here. He's behind the scenes guy, but he's putting this together. He's the reason the show is happening. So I appreciate him coming over and helping me out with this. It's not a solo mission here. But I love you all. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And go Bears. Bear down, baby. Go Cats. Go Zags. Right? Let's catch dubs this weekend. Peace out.